Yeah, Lovelution projects again with you. This is my first episode in English. I have 14 episodes that I've started in Greek. Today we have with us Zeffi. Can you pronounce the ending part of that?
Zeffi Devi.
Zeffi Devi, gotcha. Awesome. Zeffi Devi is a medical intuitive and healer. What is it exactly that you do, Zeffi?
Well, I've been doing energy work for over 30 years. I'm actually a mystic because I love to put all the energy works, from different countries and from different traditions and all that, put it together. So it helps me in my work. I love working with women. Of course, I love working with men also, but my focus is to help people get to the next level and heal themselves from anything that are holding them back, like their emotional level, their psychic level, whatever energy is stuck in their body. This is my work, is to help it release it so we can get to the next level.
It's always a good time for that to happen. I feel like I've been on that process my whole life. Definitely getting better, but even though it gets better and the quality improves, I feel that you're moving through whatever you're at right now to get to the next stage. So you're always just like struggling, like moving through something, right?
Well, there's so many layers in our psyche, in a sense. That's the way I want to call it. So it's like, see your life as an onion. So you keep peeling things you get to the core of who you are. Correct? So by releasing things that don't serve you, is that outside of the onion till you get to who you really are, which is your core. And your core is what? Your spiritual being. We all are. You're not just the only one, and I'm not the only one. We all are spiritual beings. And we were born here to do something different. We were born here to not change the world, because that's just, whatever, is to really release what's holding us back from years and years and thousands of years of repetition as a soul, Mm. So also past lives.
Also what?
Past lives.
Past lives, gotcha. Yeah, I guess that awareness is really necessary in our times right now. And I'm kind of doing this podcast for the same reason. The only thing I'm doing is just trying to find other people that are aware and doing the work like yourself, and just kind of make it available to other people that are not into this consciousness and awareness and self growth stuff. So I think it's time for them to get into it. So A, they can move past their own stuff, and B, develop an awareness so they're not harming themselves, others, and the environment.
Absolutely, because look what happened, those 40 days, even more in some countries, like I'm in Sedona, Arizona, you in Greece. We gone through different length of time that we stayed home to actually, change the world, and look how the world changed. But we have to really look at how we are ready to change, because as we're changing, it's like a domino effect, everybody around us will change. We don't have to push anything at anyone because they might not be ready. But if we really emanate that beautiful energy that is about, I'm very strong, I'm very grounded, I'm not in fear, I'm not in judgment, I'm not in, saying it's everybody else's fault except mine. If we get out of that outside part, which is our ego, and really come into our kind self, we can shift everything, and we can shift and help everybody around us. But it takes time for us to change. It takes awareness, and it takes consciousness, and it's a layer after layer after layer that we have to release.
Well, check this out. Speaking about shift and collective consciousness, think about this. It just crossed my mind right now that in the Christian religion, there's the Easter. I think also in the Catholic, I'm not sure. I don't know much about all the religions, but also in the Muslim culture as well. They have their Ramadan right now. So it's a detox and a fasting period for the humans. And also, it just happened, you just said 40 days, which is usually the 40 days of fasting that all of the religions have to do before their Easter or what they're going through. So what a coincidence that all this is collectively happening at the same time with the virus and the planet's detoxing and fasting, and we're doing it at the same time. I mean, the dates might be off, you know what I mean? Like but the time frame is like dot on. Isn't that
Well,
interesting?
no, we sometimes humanity need to actually to shift. They need something intense to happen. Like when I went into my spiritual path, something intense happened into my life, and I really realized that I need to change my rhythm up there, who I was. And I had to go deep inside to figure out who I was. And it takes, normally they say it takes 21 days for the brain to change, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But the cleansing to happen, it takes 40 days. So the cleansing could be anything from food detoxing to energy to thoughts to any patterns. So if we have a pattern now for the past, before this happened, like to rush out of bed and get to work and, run. Now we had a pattern of like getting out of bed when we wanted to, really eat healthy if we wanted to, take care of ourselves and do a lot of exercise. So we did go through a major detox right now with this pandemic that happened, but it was an intense, how do you say? It's like something shook us up to actually be able to do that. So my question is, first of all, why do we need always to get shaken up like that? Why can we not have the awareness to actually shift slowly with nothing this intense happening in our lives? So a lot of us are learning that right now. And a lot of people that have been doing the work over 30 years and people peer like the same, what I do, we're realizing that we don't need to be shaken up. We need just to be like that all the time instead of us creating something like a pandemic or like a major drama in our lives to shift.
How do you suggest we can go about being like that all the time?
Well, it's first of all is awareness. Second of all is, well, I would say first of all is to understand that we're spiritual beings also, not just beings that we're out there just to make money, That's part of it. Of course, that's part of it. But then the spiritual side needs to also to be balanced. And it doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter if God is, God or Hinduism or, Krishna or Allah. It doesn't matter what your religion is. That is what is your spiritual being is who you are inside. Correct?
When you say be connected with that spiritual side, what is that? How does that translate to? Is that just like going to church on Sundays, and is that good enough, or do you mean something else?
No, it's about having compassion every day. Is stop judging every day. Start loving everything around you, from the tree to the little birds to the little squirrel, that you have in your life. Everything around you, you need to start having compassion and not judge it, because humans have learned, okay, well, her hair, for example, mine, it's white and she should dye it because she looks old that way instead of looking young. That's a judgment. It's how they feel about themselves. So what if they say, oh, her hair is beautiful and it's who she is? You know what I'm saying, the difference?
Mm-hmm.
I just brought the hair as an example
Yeah,
because I an example. And people have this tendency of looking outside and doing these judgments outside instead of like really looking inside and saying, if that person wants to be that way, that's beautiful. That's who they are. That's how they express themselves. So it's kind of understanding ourselves instead of judging what we see outside. For me, spirituality is not going to church every day. That's the worst thing you can do,
Can I ask you a question? Do you feel there's a difference now as opposed to 10 years ago or 20 years ago? Because I kind of feel like I've always been shifting, like, just like metamorphosizing, trying to go into my better version and changing vibrations. What's your take on, like, is it more important now than it was then, or is it just the same thing? I'm not clear on that. What do you think?
In the past, when we all started the work, like you started 10 years ago, for me it was 30 years ago, it was more of a slower progress.
20.
20, I'm sorry, honey. It was more of a slower process, correct? It was a slower process. It was like, okay, let me try this and let me try this. And we're kind of allowed to be a little bit slow. Now, though, the energy that's coming it's so intense that it's taking us, everybody, to get to a little bit rapidly, a little bit faster, because we don't have time anymore. It's not in a bad way that I'm saying we don't have time. It's just we need to wake up. We've been walking, kind of, what do I say, sleeping in a sense, like, between sleep and wake. Now we need to wake up. Now it needs to show us that, oh my God, look how beautiful it is for us not to rush. It's not about us making money. It's not about us now looking, how you say, seeing our children. It's not about, that's not it. The life is not just going out there and making money and ignore everything around us. The life is about really taking everything in and being okay with everything. So this is what's happening right now. Like, even this pandemic that happened, it's about us waking up. And if we don't wake up, it might come back again.
I'm glad you mentioned. I'm glad you mentioned about the speed of things wrapping up right now, because, like I said, I just started this podcast about 20 days ago, and in the past year before that, I just been in a process where I haven't been working, and I just went inside myself to really see what I want to do, what I feel I want to do, and connect and align. And it took me this long. And now I thought that I found the inspiration inside me, and I started this podcast along with some other ideas. And it started with how when you start something, you start with a lot of energy. So it started off like that, and then it just kind of, it hit like a peak, and then it's kind of going down a little bit, because you don't see the instant rewards of what you're doing. You know what I mean? Whereas when you go to work and you stay in that old pattern, at the end of the month, there's a condition, and you get that, the certain amount of dollars that is like the little reward that keeps you going. It's kind of like it's like a hamster guinea pig kind of experimentations in a lab. It's set up completely the same way. It's mastered. And in this spiritual path, you do get rewards. If you don't mind, I share yesterday's story. 3 days ago, I prayed. I said, you know what? I need a land so that way I can start planting trees, my own food, and be independent of the system. And I requested the area that I wanted, and it's past Varkiza. You're familiar with the area. And yesterday, I have a text message from a guy that I haven't spoken to in 20 years. And I saw him online, like, hey, how you doing? And we had like this God-heart connection, long story short. And I told him, yeah, my vision is kind of to go buy land and be independent. And he's like, I have land in that area. He's like, I can cut off a piece for you, and you can have it.
Amazing. That's
so that was like the reward from the universe, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, you're on the right track, you're aligned with synchronicity, and it gave me energy, inspired me. I felt the connection. I was crying for like 10 minutes straight up.
Well, let me talk about this, because this is the time of miracles, okay? And if you done your work, 20 or 30 years ago, and it really hadn't gone anywhere, it was because the old energies were holding all this stuff back. Now what's happening is the old energies, the ones, maybe we can call them negative energies or something like that, they're not holding you back anymore. So what you really wanted deep inside for a very long time is going to manifest. And I talked about that in my video that I was telling you, Energy of the Week, 2 weeks ago. So whatever you wanted for a very long time, it's showing up. And for me, to be very honest, I have a board, that I put, how we do the boards. Vision boards, yes. And I have there that I really wanted to start a school, an academy of ancient healing.
Wow.
And I just called it ancient healing. And, I so many people around me started those schools and being certified and everything like that. Guess what? I just got certified. Finally, after 20 years.
What?
And yeah, so it's called Ancient Healing Academy. I'm not doing it to.
No, that's amazing.
But it's, of course, it's in Greek and it's English, and it's going to go globally, because now whatever I teach people on the healing aspect of it, or, it would be like different curriculums, from just giving someone, just being a meditation teacher, or if they want to be a healer, they're actually certified, in America. So this is what's happening now. It's like those miracles. And I looked at my board and I said,
I can't hide my excitement. I'm like inside me feeling like all this like, yeah, I'm like celebrating inside my skin here and I
but
trying
you
to,
do
wow,
work. You see, you done your work and you
wow.
dues. So being rewarded with this monthly little money that comes to us to say, oh, that's going to make us go. No, what you get rewarded, once you get rewarded, because you done your inner work, you get rewarded big,
I feel
big.
like I got rewarded not only the inner work, but because of the actualization of this podcast, like giving to the community. You know, I saw this YouTube video and this guy was like, his podcast name was How DMT Showed Him How to Become Rich.
Yeah.
I'm not supporting or unsupporting the idea, but what he said was so. He said what it taught him is that when you're adding value to life, then you're on the right track, and then like the universe gives and takes, has that balance or something. And I don't know, it kind of signaled something for me over there, and I felt like I'm adding value through these podcasts, and I feel that maybe that's why I got this little gift from, not little, huge gift from the universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's not just because of the podcast. It's because the work that you have put already into
Previous
growing,
years.
yeah, growing your soul. Like you already putting the seeds in there, and now the seeds are giving you the fruit of your labor, even if it's 20 years. Time means nothing, you know?
Trees take like 5 to 15 years to grow and grow their fruits. Yeah.
Exactly. So you see what I'm saying? Everything takes time. So what do you really want to create? To me, this is the time of miracles. And if you, like I said, it was 2 weeks ago in my energy of the week, and I've been telling everybody that this is what's happening. This is you're gonna gain the fruits of your labor, and your soul has seeds that finally are growing and giving you exactly what you need. It's not just a synchronicity anymore. It's the labors of that you put in there for 20 years or whatever.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think? Do you think we choose the dream, or the dream chooses us?
We choose the dream. We are God.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, because so you're saying that the vision that I have, for example, actually, let me re-say that. I felt that I had a dream when I was sleeping one time, and it kind of gave me a path. And I feel that every time I walk out in alignment with the dream that was given to me, the doors and the light, things open up. And whenever I try to be like the guy that, or in the past, not anymore, the guy that goes out clubbing and just doing that regular stuff and, status, finances, another degree, another job, whatever, girlfriends, etc. I feel like I always hit a dead end emotionally, physically, like doors just start closing in the job opportunities and the relationship opportunities. And then once I realize it, and then I shift it, and then I start going inside and seeing, and then moving towards that dream again, then all of a sudden opportunities start opening up in a different direction. But like what I just said, like the piece of land, or people came together to help me fix the logo and different little details for this podcast. Like things start coming to you when you're on the right path. So my point is, I don't feel I chose the dream, not in this lifetime anyway, in my case.
You actually chose your life, the dream that you had, because and this is a little bit more of a teaching that I'm going to give you. It's your higher self. It's the being that is coming from the universe, because we have a higher being, and you have heard of that, our higher self, that it actually gave you this dream because this is your path. You're born for this.
All I know is that whenever I'm moving towards the light and I am doing projects in that direction, so it's the light. Whenever I'm moving, like anything has to do with light, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm trying to spread light and bring all the little lights together, so it can become one big light, and see what comes out of that. Yeah.
You know what I say to a lot of my students? I say, watch before you come down, because you choose to come down, correct? The birth. You choose to come here in this world this time for something. Watch what the little how you say, the little letters in the contract. Read them, because you never know what you're signing. So you are signed up for the light. A lot of people out there are signed up for the light. Most people are signed up for the light, but they don't see it because of the world being so in an illusion, in a sense, that we have to make money, that we have to be like that, we have to get the great car, the great girlfriend, the great money, the suits and everything like that. That's all fake in a sense. That's an illusion. The spiritual self is not an illusion. The spiritual self is with you at all times. So if you choose the light and you go back to the light every time because it's forgivable, the light forgives you. It doesn't matter if you chose that other crazy path, it will forgive you as soon as you get in there. It will give you exactly what you want because you have it.
I'm going to give, if you don't mind, I'm going to give a perfect example about what we're talking about, and then I'm going to ask you what direction you want to take the conversation, because I don't want to make it about me and my stories, but it just fits so perfect. I'm going to use my father as an example. The guy was in his mid-20s, late 20s, finished chemical engineering. Anything he realized he had a gift. Anything he would visualize, it would just manifest. And I'm talking about, like, even in poker, he would request the cards he wants in it, like anything, the girl, anything. He would shoot a message to that girl to come and walk to him and talk to him, and it would work, right? But the thing is that I realized after time, we saw this, how the story ended, is that he was given these gifts, but then he didn't utilize them in the correct way. The ego utilized them, and then instead of doing all this good in this world with these gifts that he had, he used them for finances and for girls and stuff like that, and then he crashed. The gifts were taken away from him, and he was punished for years, into depression, etc., for years. I don't want to tell you how many years. It was as many years as it took for him to realize what he did. And because he was being punished, he didn't see the reason he was being punished, because he's like, life was great, now I'm being punished. And he was kept on rejecting God and Jesus and universe, not from a religious aspect, but the creator. And if he rejected it for 20 years, he was being in a bad space, luck place for 20 years, until he finally gave up and said, you know what, okay, sorry, whatever. When he put his ego aside, things started moving up again. But you know what? As soon as things started moving up again, then his ego came in place, like, I did it. And then he got stomped on again. And he kept on struggling with this thing, And to be honest with you, I don't even know where he's at within that part of himself right now. It seems like he's doing a lot better. But yeah, I try to give as much advice. I'm like, dude, do yoga, meditation every day. He's like, I know, you've been telling me. I'm like, for 20 years, dude. I'm like, when are you going to do it? You're like the son that doesn't listen, I tell him. Anyway,
well, that's interesting, because you see, our parents right now are going through a very difficult time. The older generation is going through a very difficult time because they're used to being that way, like they had gifts, and because they manipulated, the gifts were taken away. Now, as a younger generation, we're learning not to do that, and the younger ones after us, correct? Because me and you are, well, we're not in similar age. I'm a little bit older than you, but we have a younger generation. So we are the ones now, the generation that's shifting all this for the newer generation to come. And then we can put the world back into this balance of spiritual and materialistic. But what your dad went through is very common for everybody almost everybody in the world. Because they're saying only like 15% of the world is into the spiritual path, truly into the spiritual path, not just because they're going to be yoga because of their ego, yoga teachers or this and that. I'm talking about truly being in the path. There's not that many out there, but there are a lot, like your dad's position, that they really need to actually understand, how they can give us this gift they were born for, because they were born also with a gift. If your dad was very manifested, he can manifest anything in his life. It's also, you have it. It's also your sister have it. It goes down in generations. But you can utilize it better than your dad, because you see that, oh my God, his ego is, making them falling apart constantly. So, and also the part that the older generation doesn't understand is surrender. Because surrender to them in their mind it's not giving up, it's actual surrender. Because their surrender to them is like, oh my God, if I surrender and I fall on the ground, someone else is winning. All right, I'm not winning. So the ego says you're not winning, so you got to go out there and fight. But surrender is acceptance.
I needed to hear that today. Thanks.
It's acceptance of like your spiritual self, or the self that you see that makes sense. Correct? Not the illusion out there. So it's not about surrendering to the enemy. is about surrendering to yourself and to your spiritual self that has, and I want to say intuition also, that has the knowledge. Your higher self has the knowledge of where you need to be. So what we do is we constantly fighting the higher knowledge that it comes to us, like the dream, for example. Or, we heard, I heard 20 years ago to do the academy, correct? But it took me 20 years to do. But I didn't judge myself. I said, okay, when spirit, and I'm ready, because I have to be ready also to hold an academy, a school, to teach out there the truth, because that's what I'm about. I want to teach the truth and not just, to give a diploma just because someone paid me, correct? And give them a diploma for the weekend. I want to be a school, which is a 3-year school, and people have to work with it, and they have to understand it, and they have to do all their clearing, and they have to do whatever they need to do. So I have to be ready for that. So when the universe, with my higher self, thought I was ready, and I was ready to accept that energy, they gave it to me, like they gave you the land, and but we have to surrender to it, but not surrender to the enemy, as everybody
Right.
what surrendering is.
I'm going to ask you this: is there, and this can be edited? Is there a direction you want to continue with? Something in particular that you want to mention? Because we're at 27 minutes, and it's better to have them as short as possible to make sure people see them, because people don't watch 40 minutes.
Well, do you have any other questions that is really deep inside of you that you want? Because, we have to live through examples. And I think people understand when me and you have gone through things, we're just not speaking because we're at a book, but we have experience where we're speaking about,
Okay.
So, and that just shows our viewers, your viewers out there, that we have gone through this so we can talk to them about it. So what else you want that you feel it's needed to be talked about? Do you want to talk about the pandemic right now? Do you want to talk about what people need to do, or?
I don't know. Let me freestyle this. I'll just tell you what's inside me is that you were saying the older people are having a harder time and now us easier. But the honest truth is I've been struggling in the last week because I was not seeing, I'm not getting any. I don't want to say that I'm dependent on the likes, but I wasn't seeing the results. I thought people, because I was feeling the inspiration, people would react positively to it and it would be great. People that I know are not even reaching out to be like, dude, that's awesome. You're putting so much time and effort, something positive. There's nothing. He's to the contrary, people have moved away and it's becoming actually more isolated and more alone where I'm at. It seems like people are falling away from my reality, especially here in Greece, because Greece doesn't have that huge spiritual community, I guess, as well. You know what I mean? I mean, they exist. So that's what's kind of, people are just falling away. And I guess there's instead of having 10, 20 people that I was used to, now maybe there's just one person that keeps popping up. And I got to pay attention to those people now. I think my new vibration is matching me with new energy, I guess. I don't know, but it's not an easy process from the human perspective, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because we're so used to doing something because we're excited and we want everybody to do it. Again, sorry to say, but that's our ego self, correct?
Yeah.
The people that are falling away from us is the people that are not ready to get to the next level. By you putting the seed in there, see it as what you're doing. You're putting the seed in there, and that's going to bloom. It might take a little bit of time. It might take another 6 months for you to keep doing it. And you will see the rewards, because a lot of people right now are very confused of what's going on. They don't understand if they should go back to their regular life. They don't understand if they should go back to a newer life. So we have to give humanity a little bit of, a little bit of time. And I know Greece is that way, but Greece also has a spirituality very deep inside, being a Greek. I think that is what's for me, because if I didn't have the knowledge of the ancient Greece, I would not really go to actually study with the Hinduism, or I would not go study with Buddhism. So what I mean by that is Greeks are there, but they need a little bit more time right now, because they're so used to being money, which is not Greek. This is not the Greek. Now you have to give them a little bit of time to balance where they're going. because they go from a Nikos that it was party and happy and, typical out there being, to a Nikos that is looking at himself, that is taking care of himself in a different way. He's not really, taken by the money and about the beautiful girlfriends and the cars and all that. That should be part of life. But also you waking up your spiritual self and you're giving. People are not used to that. There we go. You see, we're having the Greek.
Did you hear that?
I hear that.
Okay.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
distracted.
It's funny to even hear that because, we have an incredible, how do you say, examples like Gadzakis, I wrote a book. And his first books in the 50s were so spiritual that the church actually excommunicated him. Okay. And he wrote the books in English and stuff like that. But also we have the example of Zorba the Greek, correct? But who's Zorba the Greek? An incredible Hindu master actually wrote a book about that and did a meditation about Zorba the Greek. I mean, that's how in the 80s, maybe 70s, 80s, he called it Zorba the Greek meditation. Can you imagine that?
I can understand it, but I didn't know that. I
Yeah.
understand. Because Zorba, according to the movie, that's as far as I've seen, was a guy that no matter what, didn't care about the surroundings, what people said. He was always expressing what his spirit told him to do. And the famous scene probably when he was in the room and he just started dancing out of nowhere and he showed that American woman, she's like, what are you doing? You're acting crazy. He's like, no, the spirit wants to dance or something.
Exactly.
He listened to it. That's what it's about.
It's about you really listening to your spirit. And if you want to get up and dance, get up and dance. If you want to sit in meditation, sit in meditation. Don't do what everybody else is doing out there. Don't try to be like the herd. Try to be like the Zorba the Greek, that you're feeling this energy. And when I first got connected to this guru, and I don't want to mention names, I was like, amazing. He studied Heraclitus, I mean, who of the Greeks has studied Heraclitus as deep as an Indian guru? I mean, that means a lot to me, People of the philosophy mind, they really search for this. So we have, and Greece now, and sorry to talk about Greece, but I feel that the energy of the ancestors is coming so strongly. There's a lot of it that it's time for us to wake up because we have this energy in Greece. Like, Sedona is a spiritual place. Peru is a spiritual place. The pyramids is a spiritual place. And I've been asking researchers, I said, have you guys ever researched the energy of Greece? And they're like, no, because it wasn't time. But I believe now it's time for the Greeks to actually get to this ancestor, even if they think, oh, well, who cares about that? We're Christians. No, all of it is there. Even Christianity, even, ancient Greece is all of it and there in our being, in our DNA. So it's waking up. It's really waking up.
I'm going to say something. I don't know if it's random or not, but I experienced it last night. I don't know how to label it in my head. Listen to this. I was watching David Icke with London Real. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And at the point where David Icke mentions the Nephilim, I say the word Nephilim and my internet goes out and I can't watch anything. Everything is just done out. And as soon as the show finished, my internet came back. I don't know what that means, but it tripped me out. Seriously, it was crazy. No, that's it.
Well, the thing is, what we're ready to hear and what we're not ready to hear. So spirit, show us what's correct and what isn't correct. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, that you were not able to hear it, maybe because you needed to digest it. Maybe you needed to understand what he's saying and bring it in. Because David Icke, I know him for years. He had come to Sedona like 25 years ago. And sorry. You see, I cannot even talk about it.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, because we should start listening to positive things. We should start listening to the positive energy. Not that David Icke is not positive. David Icke is very good and has a lot of knowledge. But I think enough of this. For me, it's enough of this. I want to get into the spiritual, positive side of what this is about.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of me getting caught into the negative and judging and going through all that space. I don't want it.
Right. It's like when something happens in your life, the only option you really have in your mind is to think of the positive road, not the negative. Because once anything negative you think will just take you into a downward spiral emotionally. Like your only option in life is to think of things positively and release emotions that are stored and stuff like that. I'm not saying avoid them and don't look at them.
No.
You have to bring them out and stuff like that. But yeah.
The advice that I give to my students, because they ask me all the time, how do I think positive, all the time? And I say to them, if a negative thought comes, at that point that it comes in your life, look at it. See why it's affecting you. What is it inside that you haven't cleared?
You know what? I want to add this. I feel like adding this. My path here in Greece started 2 years ago, and it was the path of, I was always researching the path of the heart, and then being on the path of the heart started 1.5 years ago when I came here. And part of the beginning process of that was I entered a relationship thing, and the heart opened in there. And once the heart opened, I saw the gunk and stuff. And the beginning process was actually looking at it and then letting it all out and telling myself it's okay to look at it and to actually admit to others that, hey, I'm depressed. Hey, I feel not valuable. Hey, like I had to verbalize these things, because if I didn't, then what you do is you keep it suppressed, and then you create a mask like everything's okay, and you just start living a lie. You start building masks to hide and suppress it. It just feels yucky talking about it. And the beginning to healing that was telling everybody that I feel like shit and letting it all out. And once that my heart cup emptied, then it was empty to fill with good stuff. I emptied out the poisons. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But think about what you really need to start being, and that's for all of us, is to be authentic. Enough with the mask. Enough with the people that write a book, for example, and saying, oh, this is what you should do, and in their own life do all the negative stuff, which we don't know, and then it comes out. Even many gurus in India, like the past couple years, have shown up with all this negativity they've been holding, but they're very famous and they're saying, you should do this work. We need to look at our cup, and we need to be authentic at every step of the moment and be in our truth. What is that truth? Today, right now I'm coughing. You're not going to cut the thing. I'm coughing. It's part of natural. Or my nose is running. Whatever. You know what I mean? Be authentic. Who you are. Who you truly are. Show the world the true you, not what you expect the world to see from you. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a difference.
Yeah, of course.
And then when you are in this authenticity, in this authentic self, people will start coming, but they will be the right people. They will actually support your authenticity and your truth. It's very hard to speak your truth. People are not ready to accept it yet. They're learning, but they're not ready.